So this is a clip of Jordan Peterson talking to Bill Maher about the Bible. Bill is a self-described atheist and derider of the Bible. Jordan is, I think, sort of subscribes to Christian doctrine. That's my understanding. And here they are, where Bill is talking about things he slams the Bible for. I want to show you what he says, and I want to then offer some insights from a Jewish perspective and my own perspective on this. So have a watch first of Bill's accusations against the Bible.
Doesn't attract attention.
You were talking about Sodom and Gomorrah earlier. That was you, right?
It was me. It was Marion Williamson.
Okay, so I was there when we were making Religulous. That was like one of the places, and this is the one with Lot's wife.
Yep.
So I feel like I studied this, and I didn't remember these like intricate permutations there, where God was bargained down to 10 people.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually why they go to Sodom, to look for the 10 people.
But it started at 40?
Started at 40.
I mean, I just love the way they love the Bible, and it's the greatest book, and they swear on it, but it has these things that are like comically stupid and corrupt. I mean, God is so corrupt in the Bible. I mean, you can bargain humans. You know, he does things that are so capricious and cruel and, you know, petty. I mean, he's very Trumpian.
Well, you know? I've been walking.
So Jordan then goes on a long tangent at this point, and you can watch the original clip if you want to. But I want to respond to some of the accusations that Bill was making there, which is, first of all, he talks about God as you can bargain with him, basically. And he's talking about how in the case of Sodom and Gomorrah, what happens? Abraham is, God comes to Abraham and he says, there's Sodom and Gomorrah is an evil place. I'm going to wipe them out. And Abraham says, if you can find some righteous people, please don't do it. And he tries to bargain with them. You know, he starts off with a higher amount, then goes lesser and lesser. Even if you can find 10 people, 10 righteous people, surely that should be enough. And Bill looks at this and he's thinking, what is this? You're bargaining with God? And what are you saying? You could persuade God to do something differently? What does that make God? Surely if God is the judge of all, then he could, know what's the right thing to do without human beings, persuade them either way. And if he can be persuaded, then surely he's so fickle. It's a fair accusation, isn't it? And the next thing he says is that God is very petty, seemingly. Very Trumpian, he called it. So let's deal with things one by one. The first thing he says is that about the bargaining thing. Let's try to understand what's going on. You know, there's another example where we see a righteous person seemingly bargaining, having a conversation with God. And that is Moses. God says to Moses, I'm going to wipe out the Jewish people because just days after I gave them the Torah and came down to them on Mount Sinai, they're now worshipping a golden calf and they betrayed me. That whole story needs unpacking and how it is that happened and all that, but let's just accept at face value that's what they did. And Moses says, if you destroy them, this is his last argument of many, he says, God, if you destroy them, wipe me out from your book as well. Don't restart the Jewish people with me. I'm not interested. Take me with them. And God says, fine, I forgive them. Again, another example of seeming bargaining with God. What is it? Is he so fickle that he can be persuaded like this? Why is God even having these conversations? More than that, why do human beings debate with God on this? Surely if they're pious and righteous, they should say, well, God, I accept what you say. Fair enough. You're God, you're the judge of all. But actually, it turns out that Abraham says to God, shall the judge of all not do justice? Saying God is not doing justice potentially by wiping out Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, that is a bold statement. But what's amazing is that Abraham is commended for trying to persuade God otherwise. Moses is commended for trying to persuade God otherwise. Our most pious people in Judaism. Bizarre, isn't it? Other religions aren't like that. It's all about obedience. And by the way, many times in Judaism, we're compelled to be obedient, and we celebrate We celebrate our leaders who are obedient to God. When Abraham's told to sacrifice Isaac on the altar, the Akedah, there he is commended for his obedience. So what's going on? Which one is it? In fact, we're told that the reason why Noah, in the story of the flood, in some ways was a little bit lacking in righteousness is that unlike Abraham and unlike Moses, when God told Noah, I'm going to destroy the world, Noah didn't protest to God. Here's what's going on. God is seeking a partnership with us, with human beings. The whole purpose of this world is for us to partner with God, for us to become godly like him. We're not just some tiny little, slaves and nothings who are just totally in awe and unable to think, move, feel, communicate in the presence of God. No, God's seeking actual partnership and intimacy with us, and he's seeking for us to fuse together and understand one another and connect to one another. And when he says certain things, I'm planning on doing this, I want to do that, to a righteous person who really understands God's various values and concerns, he's inviting these human beings into conversation with him, to partner with him in a judicial process. God starts off by articulating the side of justice, and he wants his partner in creation to articulate the side of mercy and kindness. And together they can have a conversation as two godly beings. God himself being God, and human beings being a fragment, a piece of God, which has a godly soul. He's looking for a conversation, a dialogue. And also, of course, God, it seems, didn't want to see the Jewish people meet their end. But he's inviting Moses, he's inviting our leaders to build their own merit by standing up for the Jewish people in the name of mercy and kindness when he comes to him in the name of justice. One might think that God doesn't like having opposition to what he's going to do. No, he was actually inviting Moshe and Moses to go against what he was saying because he loves it, because that's what he wants, because he's seeking a partner with him in this creation. And it actually was a way of building up Moses to even greater heights. In some ways, it was a test. We're even told by a rabbinic commentator, the Arizal, a Kabbalistic mystical commentator, that Moses was a reincarnation of Noah to correct what Noah had done or not done by not protesting. And that Moses this time did protest. And at that moment when he said, erase me from your book, we're told that moment suddenly rectified what happened. We're even told that the word he used, mechenina, erase me from your book, can be rearranged to spell, I think the word was Mei Noach, the waters of Noah. Because at that moment, he rectified what happened with Noah not protesting. So that's point number one. And so when God does a commandment, says, I command you to do this, that's when we do obey, and we're expected to obey. But when he says, I'm planning on doing this, he's inviting us into a conversation with him. And it's a real beautiful thing that shows the partnership that God is seeking with us. It's not like other religions may frame it, where we are just simply obedient slaves that have no, real intimacy and relationship with our Creator. The second thing that Bill says that I think really needs some unpacking is this notion that God is petty, Trumpian even, gets so worked up by the slightest things. Well, I mean, if you read the Bible, there's a lot in which God is actually very forgiving. I mean, he forgave the Jewish people for what they did at Mount Sinai. But he also got upset at the same time. The Jewish people test him a number of times in the desert, but he forgives. But yes, also gets upset at the same time. So what's going on here? Is he forgiving, or is he very fragile? And maybe even petty? Well, is it petty? You take a people out of slavery. You give them all these miracles, take them to Mount Sinai, and then they betray you with the golden calf. Is it petty to be upset by that? Or is it just normal in relationships when you get hurt by someone betraying you? Isn't the fact that God is so sensitive to our actions while also being forgiving and allowing us to continue the relationship with him, isn't that just a sign of how much he needs us? Isn't that a sign of his vulnerability? And I mean that in a positive sense. His desire for real relationship with us. Why is that petty? Isn't that potentially quite beautiful? See, the question is the tone in which you read the Torah, the tone in which you read the Bible. People think, oh, the New Testament, God is now just all just love, it's love, 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 just believe in him and you're all good. Your actions don't count anymore. They say that that's somehow a much better way. Actually, if our actions don't count anymore, what kind of relationship is that? So you can totally flip it and see how actually it's such a beautiful thing. God's lack of indifference, his genuine care and sensitivity and reaction to the things we do. You can look at that and think, God, he's so fragile. Or you can think, wow, he's so vulnerable and sensitive to having a relationship with us. And let's also not forget, people think, oh, would he be with us like that today? It's very different when you've just had all these miracles and godliness is so clear to perhaps God's expectations of us today when he's been so hidden for so many thousands of years. So let's not think his expectations of us would be the same today, because that sometimes can happen when people read the Torah. But nonetheless, the vulnerability element to me seems so clear. Rabbi Manis Friedman often tells the anecdote of a religious father called him up and said, please speak to my 9-year-old daughter. She's convinced God's angry with her. And he just put him on the phone to her without much time to process what the father had just said. But he put him on the phone to her. And Rabbi Friedman said, God is angry with you? You know, I think she sounded like she thought she was going to hell and going to be punished. And she said, yes. Yeah, he is. And she was really disturbed by that. And he said, well, I'm so jealous. She said, jealous? What do you mean you're jealous? She said, because you're 9 years old and God is angry with you? How did you become so important? The problem was over. If God is angry with us, isn't that the biggest compliment in the world? The creator of the universe is bothered by what I, tiny me, does? That's mad. You know, fear of God in Judaism is less about what God could do to me and more about what I could do to him. Not that he could hurt me, that I could hurt him. And not just that he could give me joy, but I could give him joy in the positive. That's actually even more scary if you think about it. But it's good scary. We only get upset by the people we really care about. If God didn't care about us, he'd just be indifferent. Oh, these stupid human beings. So it really just is about the tone and way you think about these stories. It's not stories. This is, as a Jew, reality. In all senses. Historically, but also, yes, morally. So I think we need to stop looking at the Torah and the biblical stories in a superficial way and dig a bit deeper. And when you do, you'll find within them a depth of wisdom and a meaning that could be infused within all our lives that one otherwise simply wouldn't have. The Jewish God, yes, is affected by what you do, but that's not a good thing. It shows just how much he needs you to partner with you in elevating and fixing this world. If you've made it so far in this video, I have a request for you. JTV has been having a really big impact in spreading the truth about Israel and creating positive associations with the Jewish people, Judaism, and Israel. We've really grown a lot, particularly in the last year, and we're having a really significant impact, both for Jews and non-Jews. But I really want to take JTV to the next level so we can start to compete with the other big online media beasts that are often peddling anti-Israel content. And the way we're going to do that is to scale even faster. So I'd love to build a team where we have other presenters doing shows like me, let's start doing documentaries, supplementary content, animated content, etc., etc. And to do that, I'd like to build a bit of a team. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one fundraising day, just one, where we try and build up some funding in order to fund such a team. Now, to do that, it's going to obviously require people to get involved. And I'm wondering if you would consider, if you're watching JTV content and appreciate what we do and want to help partner with us in taking this to the next level and spreading the truth farther and wider than ever before, I wonder if you'd consider partnering with us simply by running a mini page on the fundraiser that we do, where you just reach out to your contacts on that day that we choose to fundraise and see if they'll all chip in. If you'd be up for doing that, of which I would be so grateful, then please click on the Google form link in the video description of this video, where you can simply just put in a few contact details. It'll be a very small commitment, as I say, literally just one day that we'll all agree upon as a collective community. But the impact is going to be so big. There's such strength in numbers. If we all pull together and do this, we can take this to the next level. And as I say, all of us can partner together in bringing and spreading the truth to the whole world. So please do consider clicking on that link, filling in the form, and I'll be in touch very soon to talk about the next steps. Small commitment, but a big impact. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.